Good morning. It is Thursday, the 23rd of June, and we continue working our way through the book of Numbers. Today we looked at Numbers chapter 17. But before I talk about the events of chapter 17, they sparked off, in my mind, a memory of how my mom would treat my sister and myself if we were in a busy place or if we were about to cross a road. She would grab both of our hands very firmly and she would instruct us, do not let go and follow me. Do what I tell you to do what you see me doing. And it was really to keep us safe, because in the crowds and the jostling of people, we could easily have become separated and lost. Or in crossing the road, it might just be that we hesitate a little too long and get left behind and then run the possibility of being involved in an accident, being knocked over by a car, which would not be very pleasant. And it's certainly an action that Jenny and I continued with our own kids, and we do it to this day to the grandkids. If we're in a busy place or crossing the road, or there's dogs around and we feel the kids might be a little scared, then we'll hold their hands, maybe even pick them up if they're still quite little. And I share that because for me it's a form of intentional parenting and giving of care to those in our responsibility. And I share this because this is what I believe is happening in the book of Numbers, and particularly we see it today in Numbers 17. What happens is that God says to Moses, take each of the 12 tribes, they are each to deliver a staff. They are to write their names on the staff, and you are to put these staves in the tent of meeting before the presence of God, and you are to leave it there overnight. And I will show in the morning who I have chosen to be the religious leader, or the priest, the high priest of the people of God. And so Moses does this, the people agree to it, and they believe that this would certainly indicate who God has chosen. And so 12 staffs go into the tent of meeting, and the following day when Moses goes in, there is the staff of Aaron, and it has budded and it has produced leaves and the fruit, almonds, and the almonds are ready for eating. So it's really quite a miracle, because overnight a staff, which by all accounts is a piece of dead wood, has become alive and produced not just leaves and buds, but actual ripe fruit. So what would normally take months to occur has happened in a matter of hours overnight. And the people are quite impressed, and they realize that God has chosen Aaron. And if you go just a bit beyond the readings, we were 17 verses 1 to 11, chapter 17 ends on verse 13, but if you just read through to the end, you see the people cry out, along the lines of, we are doomed because God has spoken. And finally it is as if they begin to realize God has chosen who he wishes to choose. Now, I shared my story with my mom, grabbing our hands, and how we did that with our kids earlier, because I believe God is doing intentional caring for his people. God has chosen these people. They are his people, and he has become their God. Not exclusively, because God, we know, that does not ignore other people, but God has chosen very specifically these people who are to become the Israelites, and has chosen them to be his people and his servants. God has an intention in mind. And so when he chooses the Aaronic priesthood out of the tribe of Levi, it is because he wishes his purpose to be done. It's not some arbitrary benign choice, as we might get in a company, and there's a couple of managers who are seeking promotion, and it's a little bit of a bun fight to show who is the better person. Here, God is very specifically and very strongly involved. And the reasons for his involvement, just as my mom's reason for grabbing our hands as kids and our reason for grabbing our kids' or grandkids' hands when they were still little, is to protect them, because we understood the dangers of the jostling crowd or the crossing of a road. God understands the evil and the corruption that evil brings to cause sin and judgment on the people of God. And so God is very specifically involved, not because he is arbitrary in that, but because he knows the dangers. And so when God appoints the church, it is because that is the will, the express, purposeful will of God. And it's not for us to go and choose and duck and dive and come up with our own thinking of how it ought to be. This is the will of God. And when the church appoints leaders, there is always consultation, should always be consultation, and then someone is appointed. That is the person who God wants, and we need to accept that. So back to this whole question of leadership and grumbling and mumbling, we are really saying, God, you don't know what you're doing, and we know better than you, and that obviously is not the case. So folks, just remember, God has a way in which he wants to work in this world, and we need to follow that, not try and tell God how he should be doing it, because actually God does know best. Folks, have a wonderful day, and we'll chat again, probably not tomorrow. I have a very early appointment, and I will be traveling around the country a little bit over the weekend, so I'll pick you up again next week. God bless.